feeling like I'm Akademiks. Can't ride away.
So, I'm not going to lie to you. This is very shocking to me. Now, let me go to my tweets. And by the way, I've told you usually where my predictions come from, or sometimes if you don't see the predictions on maybe the sites you look at, I'm kind of transparent with how I get my predictions. Okay, there's about 3 sites that kind of does a really good job of like really predicting what's going to happen. Some of them, they predict sales, some predict streaming data, some do it all. It is what it is. So Nav, on my way to Rexdale, has debuted at number 37 this week on the Billboard 200, and he sold 19,000 records. Now, this is very different from what you saw, like even I tweeted out, and a lot of other people were going with before. Previously, a lot of people were saying, yo, Nav is going to outsell Dirk. And let me see if I could pull that up. So here we go. Wait. Okay, sorry. All right. Okay, wait. Did I not put out predictions for him? I thought I did. I thought I put out predictions for Nav. Maybe I didn't. Okay, this is all the Kanye text. By the way, did we ever go over the Kanye text? That shit was hilarious. Oh, okay. I think I did. So Dirk was on pace to sell 67,000, and Nav was actually on pace to sell 70,000. Then we heard a ridiculous number saying he was going to sell 83. So this is April 1st. No, it wasn't April Fool's Day or April Fool's joke. Nav, on my way to Rexdale, was scheduled to sell 80,000 first week. Now, from what I'm hearing, and again, not from Nav's team or anyone else, but I'll try to give you a little bit of details of what's going on, is that I hear that what happened to Nav is what happened to Cardi. Now, here's the difference. Cardi was going to have the #1 streamed album of the year because of the anticipation. However, Cardi was supposed to do 500,000 first week. So they were thinking of Travis Scott's strategy. Stream 200,000 or 250,000, and then essentially sell 250,000 in product or pre-sales, or actually for Cardi, we got to give him credit. It was mostly digital albums, okay? Or not digital albums. It's CDs, okay? Now, obviously, that's seen as a little bit different than traditional bundling, where we're now seeing people just bundle shirts, key rings, and all that other stuff with it. But that was the point. So what we ended up figuring out is that on February 28th, Billboard changed their rules. So they said to Cardi, you're not selling 500,000. Yes, Cardi was supposed to sell 500,000. It was written in stone. But Billboard said, no, you didn't follow the rules. Now, I actually forgot what the actual rule was with the Cardi thing, why they didn't give him the pre-sales, and they only pretty much gave him streams and like just only a few digital albums. But they disqualified all those sales. Now, the only difference with Cardi and I think Nav, and I'm going to be honest, and I hope Nav's people don't get mad at me, but I'm just doing my job here. And again, me and Nav, we had a problem before, but we've since squashed it, but this is my job. I got to give it up honestly and real. You know what I mean? Despite what you guys might want out there. The thing with Cardi was actually selling like these digital albums, right? It was supposedly had like 130 in sales. They disqualified them. And that was Billboard. Billboard said, no, we're not doing it. I think partly it was because of the shipping and some other it was a bunch of things that kind of did it. I don't want to quote one specific thing because I can't remember off the top of my head. But the sales, and here's the problem. And I know I'm jumping from point to point. Billboard don't like that these niggas are trying to get over half of their sales counted on Billboard, but they're trying to sell it on their private website. So they're selling it on opium.com, or they're selling it on brownboynav.com. By the way, I don't think these are real websites, but you get what I'm saying. what happens is when people are selling the majority of their albums from their own personal store, it could be manipulated. How could it be manipulated? Well, you could just buy the albums yourself. You could rig the rules. Now, Billboard has really strict rules. One user can't buy this amount. One credit card could only be used for this amount. The shipping has to be at this point. This has to, they have really, and now they even changed it where there's like, you could only have certain amount of variations. By the way, I think that's a Taylor Swift rule. She'll get to that later. But Billboard realizes the finesse. Get the majority of your sales on your private website that you could finesse and do whatever with when you turn the data in to Luminate/Billboard for them to approve. So after they changed their rules, they told Playboy Cardi, we're not counting your bundles. So Playboy Cardi bundles, for the most part, were not counted. He was still number one, damn near 300,000 records first week. But if he had them bundles, he would have been closer to 500,000. Remember, again, Travis Scott. Travis sells 500,000, but really he's selling 200 to 250 in streams. The rest are whatever, right? So Nav does the same thing, okay? Now, some people have told me, and I don't want to just stand on this officially, they say that the problem with Nav's thing is that Nav, even though he might have announced, so Billboard changed the rule on February 28th. Nav already had something in place, right? So basically they didn't grandfather his sales in. They said, we won't count any album sales if it's below this amount of dollars in threshold. Essentially, Nav's was below it before they made the rule. When they made the rule, and apparently that amongst a few other things, they didn't count it. So again, it first said he was on pace to sell 70K. Then he was on pace to sell 83. Then now we realize he sells 19K. So there's about 50 to 60,000 records that got disqualified. And the real disqualification simply came off the fact that Billboard is cracking down and not trying to allow these guys to basically put up fake numbers by saying that this is what's going on the activity on our own personal site, where they could use a label credit card. And again, this is all investments, right? Because 60,000 in albums, right? 60,000 or 60,000 sales is 600,000. Now, you might be like, damn, what label would waste $600,000 to make Nav look good? Well, not so fast. Him appearing to sell 80K makes his music look lit, and you look like you're experiencing FOMO. So you're going to go check it out. Then the 600,000 that, by the way, is definitely less. You have to extrapolate over the 2 years, and you take it from his budget that it was initially, because that's part of these guys' budget these days. You got a budget for the first week sales. Because again, if you budget only up to the first week, if your first week don't look good, you wasted your budget. So you want a budget to even finesse the first week that the rest of the weeks could look good. That's part of recouping, right? So anyway, I said all that to say, Nav and his team got called out. I'm not blaming this on Nav. With all due respect, EXO is a amazing team that know how to finesse. Like, again, I got nothing against EXO. I told y'all this. The Weeknd was trying to beat Drake. Remember when The Weeknd sold that low number with Dawn FM? The Weeknd dropped an album, right? What was the last album? Hurry Up Tomorrow? Let's look at the sales for this. Remember when he dropped Dawn FM? I believe it was Dawn FM. He got outsold by Gunna. People said that was embarrassing, right? Here we go. Okay. So he sold 490, right? First week. Consisted of 171 million on-demand streams. By the way, just to put in perspective, Drake and Party's joint did, hold on, my bad, man. Did 287 million on-demand streams. You had The Weeknd, who did 171. So Drake did an extra 100 million than The Weeknd, yet The Weeknd looks like he sold twice as much as Drake. The devil is in the details, okay? He sold 359,000 pure album sales. What does that mean? Bundles, vinyls, and other things, okay? He says that the latter figure is the highest for any male artist since 2020, okay? So essentially, EXO realized, fuck the streams, let's figure out how to get the pure sales. Now, I'm not going to knock it. You know, when I was arguing or talking about music with 6ix9ine, he made a good point. He says, if niggas can fake their streams, why are you mad when people could fake their sales? Or they could bundle and boost their sales. The whole game is corrupt. You can't only call out one part of corruption. That was probably the greatest point he ever made to me. Because I was over here like, you know, I would crucify a nigga like Nav, like, yo, well, you know, you trying to get, like, you're selling t-shirts or you're selling this. All right, maybe he is. But the rest of the niggas are botting streams. So we're in a place right now where the music game is all about finesse. All about finesse. The Weeknd sells 490, 360,000 of those are pure album sales. They were trying to get Nav to sell 80, and they wanted 60,000 pure album sales. Because at the end of the day, when the first week numbers come out, nobody cares about how you got it. They care about what you got. And this is exactly why, when it comes to how you view all of these albums, it's going to matter. It's going to, like, it's all about programming. So anyway, you know, I don't blame this on Nav, but again, this is why Billboard is trying to crack down on all of this fuckery, okay? And this is I personally believe EXO tried to do their big one, pause, with trying to get this finesse off, just like how Travis Scott people know the finesse. The only thing is Travis Scott people, they know the current rules, and they always follow the current rules. With Nav and them, here's the thing about Nav, right? Nav is EXO. The Weeknd dropped, and the finesse worked for The Weeknd. Nav drops, but February, I think it was 28. Look, Billboard rules changed when it went into effect. Billboard rule change 2025. It went into effect. It went into effect February 28. Yes, February 28. So The Weeknd dropped before it happened. Nav tried to drop after the rule happened. So again, remember when we were even on Nav's page? Look, Nav store. Look, remember when we looked at it last time? They have a thing for CAPTCHA. You know why they're doing CAPTCHA? They require it. Look, remember we did this before, right? Let's go here. Let's try to buy a shirt, right? Or buy whatever. They're gonna come with albums, I think. Look, let's see. It's a pre-order, blah, 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 da, da, da. Okay. This doesn't seem like it comes with a shirt. It doesn't come with an album. It's usually going to say it comes with an album. Let's see. I think they might have removed those options. But normally they would be like, yo, you get the shirt and the album, right? Here's the problem. Let's see. It doesn't say album. Yeah, I think they took that out. So here's the thing. I could add all this shit to the shop. View cart, checkout, right? And I could just hit the checkout button and essentially almost buy the shit without this option that they want. Now, the reason why Billboard put into place this rule saying you need CAPTCHA is because these labels, let me go back, these labels are essentially using bots to purchase these albums. They're not buying them. It's 60,000 sales. You have to do 60,000 transactions. So you know what they do? They literally just say, yo, you got to have some type of CAPTCHA where bots can't consistently do this 60,000 times. You get what I'm saying? And because I heard that's one of the reasons Nav Store didn't have that, they didn't count it. Because they're like, y'all could have just wasted $500,000 to do this and then had a bot just buy it with a VPN to try to evade us. But it's harder to evade us if there's a CAPTCHA. They didn't have a CAPTCHA. That's not the only reason. I heard there's a couple other reasons, but if you're wondering, yes, they figured out the finesse. All right. Okay.